This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Easthampton City Council Property Committee meeting for April 22nd, 2025. I think before we get into anything, we have minutes to approve from March 27th. So I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Guys, if you could all just, there's a lot of people in this room, so if you could just try your best to not to limit to sort of the crosstalk or walk outside if you need to say anything, that'll make it a lot easier for us to do this whole thing and not to be too distracting. Thank you. Okay, so we're here today. The one item on our agenda is around a request from the Parks and Rec Commission to write an ordinance around flags on public property. Just a little bit of background on this issue as far as I understand it, but I'd definitely be happy to hear any clarification from anyone who might know more about it than me. So right now, within the city, there is one document that I'm aware of that gives any guidance on this issue. And it's an executive order from the mayor from June 6th, 2022. It reads as follows. The city of Easthampton's flagpoles and other city-owned properties are not intended to serve as a forum of free expression by the public. The city may display the following flags as an expression of the city's official sentiments with the approval of the mayor. 1, flags of governments recognized by the United States. 2, flags, actually it also says flags of governments recognized by the United States. Flags of yeah, I don't know if that's a typo, I guess. I didn't write this. And just before we get...
It's better with 3 bullets.
Yeah. And just to be clear, again, we are the city council, we're not the mayor, and we didn't write this. So that's just where we are, and that's what's going on. 3, flags or banners in conjunction with official actions, ceremonial items, or city proclamations. In conjunction with the issuance of this executive order, this is sort of the fun part where we kind of need to take one on the nose. I ask that the city council consider creating an ordinance following the public process, defining the use of public space and flag poles with more specificity in the coming fiscal year. So we were asked to do this in June of 2022. Nobody ever picked it up, I guess. And so we currently, that is our one thing, is that flags can be put up with the approval of the mayor. That's what we have right now. And there's not anything that, so what we can potentially do here is we can consider an ordinance that would suit, that would go and update this guidance and say, here's our new policy about how we want to handle flags on public property. In light of everything going on with the flag and the pond, the DPW commission was talking about this issue, and they realized they do not have sufficient guidance on what this is. So they asked us to write an ordinance to clarify, when it comes to public flags, who approves them, when are they allowed, where are they allowed, these sorts of matters. So I know that a lot of you are coming to express your support for there being a flag on the pond. We're going to do some public speak. You are welcome to express that, but what I would really be super interested in, if folks are interested in weighing in on it, is specifically what they'd like to see from this ordinance. Because until we write this ordinance, what stands is the mayor's executive order. And that executive order is what I just read. So if we want it to be something other than that very simple thing that I just read, it's going to come down to us writing a new policy. And I'd be interested in what people's thoughts on that new policy should be. Let's see, anything else? No, I was thinking I was going to get an email, but that would be relevant to this, but I have not received it. So, councilors, anything you want to say before we open things up for public comment?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Excuse me, could you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Tom Peak. I chair the committee.
I'm Peg Coniff. I'm on city council.
I'm J.P. Kwasinski on city council.
We're all city councilors. Okay. Person, JP, would you be nice
Yeah,
to just admit people as they come in so that, yeah, okay, great. All right, so then I guess let's just jump right into the public speak. I'd like to get some guidance from folks. And the one thing I would just ask is, you're allowed to talk about anything pertaining to this issue, but if someone before you has said the exact same thing, like, then just for the benefit of everyone, like, if you could just say, I agree with that person, that would just speed this up a little bit. You can do whatever you want, but it's just a respectful request. They're all in.
You're going to do these guys first?
Yes, and then once everyone in the room has spoken, if anybody online wants to raise your hand, you can also weigh in. So, take it away.
I'm Mike Kosnick. I'm a lifelong resident of Easthampton. I live at 166 Hendrick Street. And I've been involved in this memorial flag raising since its inception 23 years ago. This location and the fact that the flag is on the pond was approved by the Brookside East Street Cemetery Commission and the two previous mayors. I don't know what an executive order does to the authority of the cemetery commission, but when we went to the Park and Rec Commission to verify, they did not rescind their permission for us to maintain an anchor for this flag. As you know, the mayor has ordered it down in November. I'm not sure what you said. There was something in 2022. We never heard anything about it, but to be quite honest, we've never heard from the mayor at all. Any reason why this flag can't go back up. A little background, you probably already know this. I'll just say for the record, it also, I did give you a much longer discussion on paper, and you're welcome to read that at your leisure. The flag was raised over the pond as a memorial to 9/11 in 2001. It is flown every year for 23 years without any guidance or help from the city, and also no cost to the city. And up until now, no controversy. So now the flag is being attacked by the city for whatever reason. We don't know, honestly. A couple of reasons have been given that haven't been true. A couple that I'll mention. No permission. We do have permission. The city holds those files. I left them. When I left my position as mayor, there were files here about that flag and about the approvals. I don't know where they are. I don't control the city's records. The first argument, honestly, we have permission. The second argument was it's not illuminated. We've said right along, if the community wants it illuminated, we'll be happy to do that. That hasn't gotten a response either. We raised the flag at the urging of a private property owner who was approached by the brother of a veteran who was going off to war because of the 9/11 issue. And we haven't made any fanfare about it. We do this as a service. We do this because we want to remember. We do this because we believe it's the right thing to do. And over the years, it's become a symbol of our community. And I think an important symbol in lots of different ways. There's nothing political. So I personally believe that this attack is political. But there's nothing political about what we do. It's the American flag. It's not the Republican flag or the Democratic flag or anybody else's flag. It's the American flag. We spend a lot of time, put a lot of effort into it, and have never wanted to be this public about it. Maybe we should have. In response to your question about what could be done, one thing in that executive order stood out to me, and that's a proclamation by the city council. And I think that would be helpful, at least until you figure out what your ordinance is, because I know that that takes a very long time. And this is the first time that I recall, of course, I've been out of this business for a long time, that the city council has ever gotten a request for an ordinance without language. Which makes it that much more difficult because you're starting from an empty sheet and you're not really sure where it's supposed to go. I don't know that you can legislate where American flags go, but maybe you can. And that certainly is your prerogative. You're the legislative body. But we would like to be able to put the flag up ahead of Memorial Day this year and put it up until Veterans Day, which is the normal course of action that we do every year. And we would like you to react quick enough for that to happen. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Ruff. I live at 107 Briggs Street. To help keep this meeting moving efficiently, especially since there are so many people here tonight, I'd like to make a suggestion. While it's everyone's right to come up here and speak, if we all say the same thing, we're going to be up here for a very long time, and we're all going to say the same thing, and it's only going to delay the committee from beginning work on a solution. If you're here simply to show your support for the 9/11 Memorial, also known as the flag above the pond, please consider simply raising your hand now so that the committee can see that that is what you're supporting.
Randy, put your hand up.
Thank you. For the record, I am in favor of continuing the Easthampton 9/11 Memorial, which has been flown since 2001. While as recent as an article in 2014 that indicated that former Mayor Cadger officially granted permission for it, I understand that things change. Laws change, leadership changes, and processes change. That's why I'm asking this committee to formally investigate how we can continue flying this memorial flag every year from Memorial Day to Veterans Day, as has been done for over 2 decades. I understand that there may be hurdles, and there will always be some that are not happy with the outcome. I also remember, like many others on that day, and for weeks, years, and decades after it happened, we all said that we would never forget. It's unfortunate that the meaning of the flag flown over the pond wasn't clear to some, but I believe we can work together to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I urge both this committee and the full city council to find an official way to support the 9/11 Memorial, whether through a proclamation, an ordinance, or another formal action to ensure that it continues to fly, as well as make it clear as to why it's there and to avoid any confusion as to what it's for. I'm more than willing to help, whether it's working with this group or others to raise funds for a memorial, for the memorial's upkeep, or even install a plaque that clearly explains its purpose as a memorial to all those that were lost on 9/11. I will leave you with this final visual. This was in the mail from the Gazette, the memorial flag over the pond that has been a marketing piece for Easthampton for over 2 decades. Let's keep it that way. I thank you for your time, and I hope a resolution can be reached as soon as possible. Thank you.
I'll keep it brief. My name is Darlene from Butter Street. I just want to say that I know that this issue's been delayed. I think that's purposeful for the people who don't want the flag, because as you can see, the crowd here tonight is far different than it was at the school. Plenty of people expressed their views in support for the flag. A man that had a problem with the flag called it a socio-political symbol, which was incorrect, moved here in 2020. Many of us have been here. I'm a transplant, but I've been here for I think it's 27 years now. I also want to point out that initially the mayor did say that it was coming down because it wasn't lit correctly. If you look at the mayor's flag, hers isn't either. So we might want to take certain things into consideration here, and let's be authentic about the true issues. It was, I think, Not a coincidence that it came down right after the election. Thank you.
I'm Nathan Marquis. I live at 37 Holyoke Street. I lived in New York City during 9/11. I saw the smoke with my own eyes. I saw the firefighters' caskets being dragged up going to funerals in the street. I remember tanks rolling down Park Avenue. I remember many soldiers around Wall Street hanging on the George Washington's statue downtown. I remember the fervor of what this country took on with the amount of patriotism, and I remember the whole world being behind us. I also remember that years after, which I believe personally, there were several failures with military actions. I have members of my family all the way back to the Revolutionary War, several generations on both sides of my family. I have a grandfather that fought in Valley Forge. My grandfather was at the Battle of Bulge and was taken prisoner of war. I have an uncle that was a dozer operator in Vietnam. And I'm heartened that a lot of people came out tonight to express their passion on what the flag represents. I don't have an opinion on what the city council should do, but I will say this. I don't think that we should be so focused upon symbols when we see the Constitution being shredded before our own eyes. We're coming out for a flag, but we're not coming out where it really matters. And the flag is simply a symbol of what this country really is. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening. Paul Novak, Chairman of the Neshowannock Pond Steering Committee. Been on the committee now since 1987, since its inception. And since then, the committee has done a lot for Neshowannock Pond. It is basically the icon of our city. The bottle shape of the mountain against the water is on our town flag, city flag. It's on our police cruiser doors. We worked very hard for this natural resource to be reborn, and it took a lot of hard work on our committee's part. So if this is the icon of Easthampton, then what better parallel could we have than mixing it with the icon of our country? The Neshowannock Pond Steering Committee just wants to formally state the fact that we feel that the pond, the flag flying over the pond that we work so hard to bring back, it's a view that everybody enjoys. It's just, it's only appropriate for that flag to fly over our pond. Just wanted to share that with you. We have a lot of work into that body of water, and we as Americans feel that let's couple beauty with beauty and splendor.
Good evening, Kathy Brzezinski, Overlook Drive. I wanted to sort of bring about the idea about how unifying this flag is. As you see people from both sides of the political spectrum speaking out and asking for it to be returned to the pond. And I think that's really important. We've had a couple other unifying events recently within the city that included both parties. And I think it's really important to acknowledge how important this flag is to all of us in unifying. I also want to talk about other issues with flags in the town. You had asked the question about what should be important in this ordinance. I would ask that we consider that only the US flag, the Massachusetts state flag, and the POW flag fly on the flagpoles that are city owned. Other flags can be flown elsewhere, but I do not believe that any other flag should be flying on city-owned flagpoles. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Miller, live at 25 Center Street, and the commander, Post 224 American Legion. In about 3 weeks, we're going to start putting flags up in town. on all the poles, along with the banners. I support everything these people have said. And I also believe that city-owned property that has permanent flag poles should be properly illuminated, which they are not. At least the old town hall is not, cemeteries are not, and that's city property. I went out here, I understood was we carried it one shortly, not long ago, which is great. But you have other properties in town that you own. From that point, we'll be putting up flags in the weekend before Memorial Weekend on the poles in town. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Subak. I live on Main Street here in town. I've owned a home there for over 30 years. I belong to the American Legion. I'm a past commander, and I've been a member of the Legion here in town for over 30 years. I also served for 18 years as a secretary of the Veterans Council here in town. As far as the ordinance goes, I strongly recommend and hope that you will deliver this ordinance with speed and approve that American flags be allowed to be flown here in town on public property, especially in the case of the flag where it doesn't cost the city a cent. The American Legion has paid for a lot of flags in this town. Not only the one on the pond, but the one that sits outside this building. I'm not saying we paid for the one that's on a pole today, but we have donated flags for the cemeteries in town. As a Legion member, I strongly urge this committee and the entire city council to hurry up and get this ordinance done so we can continue to properly fly the American flag throughout the city. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Anybody else want to say anything before we start deliberations? Anybody online?
It's the mayor.
Julie, I see your hand.
Hi, I'm Julie from Precinct 1. I just wanted to speak in support of allowing the flag to remain to fly over Nashwanik Pond. I got a little confused on your letter that you read, because that letter that you read, that was in June, right?
2020.
What year was that you said that you received that?
2022.
2022. Yeah, that's a long time.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I understand that the current order from the mayor was a twofold issue. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, because, I'm tired. I got to be honest. So I may get something confused. So please feel free to correct me. My understanding was that she ordered it down because it was not illuminated properly in accordance with the flag guide code, correct? And the other was that it was on public property. One side was private property, the other side was public property. And then I was thinking, okay, well, we have paddle boats on Nashwanik Pond, which is on our docks, which is our city property. And that's not a problem. So I can't understand why linking a line to a tree is an issue. So that's like a non-starter. That should be not even a question of whether or not they can do that. Of course they can do that. If you can do that for somebody to earn money on, you can certainly do that to anchor a flag too. And as far as the resolution, my understanding is from what they were just, Mayor Tonsnick from before, back in the day, said that they already have a plan to eliminate it. So the two issues that I also read in the Gazette from the mayor were those two issues. So I can't imagine when you write your ordinance, you can't eliminate flying something, a flag, on city property because it's city property. It should be allowed wherever somebody wants to fly, as long as it's flown appropriately. Any other thing, we can't use the flag as a political pond. in this protest that we have of our administration. And just a, just a little FYI, I find our new administration vile, but I don't let that stereotype my actions. And I don't let that stereotype the flag. A lot of people tend to do that because of the awful things that are going on. We can't do that. We have to stand up for what is right. And the right thing to do would be able to allow that flag to fly. And I hope that you can integrate something in your wording that will not be clean cut so that it eliminates flying the flag over the pond. And I know that sounds a little skewered. I'm sorry, as far as, again, I'm tired. So please consider allowing it and how you do your verbiage so that it is allowed to fly. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I think we're all a little tired.
Oh, Lord.
Natalie Murphy is up next. You'll need to unmute, I think, Natalie. Natalie, going once, going twice. Okay, if you can unmute yourself. Are you good?
Hello.
Hi.
I just want, I know this country is not, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I know this country's not perfect. If anybody knows that, it's me. But the flag is our country. I have a lesbian daughter. I have gay relatives. And none of them oppose the American flag. They love the American flag. So it unites everybody, all races. Let's keep it. I served in the military for 14 years, and my son's in the Army. And it's important for me to see that flag over the pond. It makes me feel safer. It makes me feel like we're united. I don't have to fight everybody in the city about everything. So let's keep it. And my domain is Lauren Lane. So I'll give it at that. And thank you, Julie. You really. I like what you said. And you too, Kathy. Thank you, everyone. Because the bickering, the Trump thing, all this stuff, it has nothing to do with the American flag. It has nothing to do with it. And yes, this country can be improved and better. And I just want to let you know, though, it's not about the flag. It's about everything else. That's it.
Thanks, Natalie. Anybody else? Okay. And okay, last call. Anybody, once we go into deliberations, we're gonna not want a lot of feedback. I might have some questions for people, but other than that.
I spoke once before, but I guess I heard an issue in the conversations that I would like to try to clarify, which might be helpful for your ordinance.
Sure.
The flag code that was mentioned here, the flag code is a set of advisory rules or regulations. It's not a law. It's just advice on how to properly fly the American flag. In other words, there's no flag police. So if there's a flag flying on someone's house and it's not illuminated according to the way the code said it should be, no one's going to get in trouble. They're advisory rules and regulations. They're not set in stone. I don't know if everyone knew that, but it's been mentioned. People questioned it. That's what they are.
Thanks. That's helpful. Okay. Anybody else? No. All right. Okay. There's a lot to chew on here. Let me start. I'll just say something to everyone here and to the members of the public that I hope can be taken for granted, but some of the comments make me worried that it's not. I I think that I can speak for the three of us, but I say we all really love this country, right? I mean, that doesn't mean that there are not times where I disagree with things that the government does, but that is true for everyone, I think. Sometimes, someone gets elected you don't want to be elected, or someone who you even voted for does something that you wish that they didn't. And you criticize them, but that's part of living in a democracy. I have family overseas in Sweden. I could be there right now. I could very easily be living in Stockholm right now. I'm not. I'm living in Easthampton because this is my home and I love it here, and it's where I think I can do the most good. So I think that when we talk about all of this stuff, I understand that it gets mixed up with some broader cultural discourse that's tricky, and that there might be some people who have weighed in on this stuff in a way that's not helpful and that maybe has stoked that a little bit. I think I can speak very confidently for the three people here in saying that we love America. We are not attempting to remove the American flag as a symbol from public life. I think that the questions that come in here are questions that if you are in city government and go to, say, the Massachusetts Municipal Association's conferences and whatnot, there are a lot of conversations about flags on public ground that come for purposes like there's things that somebody had mentioned earlier, that there's only certain flags that you should fly. Like this is an area where these things come up, right? Because somebody says, hey, can you fly a flag for national, for some month for some cause that the city's supportive of, and you say, okay, and then somebody else requests a flag that maybe is, I think this happened in Boston. There were people wanting to fly like Nazi flags, and like, so I think most of us could agree we don't want that. And so these things matter to start saying, what are the procedures that help us decide where flags are? That means that right now, as it currently stands, my understanding of it, and if somebody here is a lawyer on these matters and wants to correct me, I'm open to that. But my understanding of this matter right now is that until we write an ordinance, the thing that the policy that guides where flags go up in Easthampton is this executive order, and it says that they go up with the approval of the mayor. So if the mayor has decided that that flag is not going up, then until we set an ordinance specifically saying, here's the new procedure for how we want to do this, the mayor's rule, as far as I can tell, is legally what's there. That doesn't mean that previous mayors had not allowed different rules, but that is my understanding. We can agree with that or not agree with that, but that is my understanding of where we currently are. And so, the other thing that I'm hearing from folks is that they'd like us to move quickly on this, specifically because of plans to put the flag up, on Memorial Day. And to that, I would just respond, I think we can try, but I can't promise anything. But I will promise that I'll try. I promise that we'll try and meet, and if we can come up with a quick solution and everyone's on board, then we'll move it through as quickly as we can. It might not happen tonight because I think there's some questions that I have, but that's, I think, that's a starting point. And in terms of what the mayor's justifications or motivations were for removing the flag, I was not included on the original email to the Parks Department about that. If somebody has a copy of that email and they want to send that along to me, that would be clarifying. I did not, frankly, expect to be the one handling this issue. And in terms of the delay, I'll own that one. There was some turnover on this committee and its membership, and that helped. That made it made things a little bit more delayed than they should have been. We're going to, at this point on moving forward, we're going to try and move deliberately on this. So that's what I can say in terms of that stuff.
How long is it gonna take you? Memorial Day is coming up.
We can't do like the crosstalk thing once public speak is over. Like we gave if you want to
I have one
We're
point to
done
make.
with public speech, I thought.
Yeah, we're done with public speak. I'm sorry. Like, that's the whole idea, is that
we're
we give
deliberating.
people a chance to come up and speak, and we.
Yeah,
absorb-
but you're talking about the mayor's going to decide yes or no. What about the flags on the street?
Well,
Is that public property or private property?
the flags on the street are on,
Any flag in the city is
is public
subject to
property.
this.
Yeah,
Is what?
You're on a
It's
telephone.
subject,
You're on a telephone pole.
guys, really,
You're not, they're gonna take an American flag and put it down the hole.
we're not.
Put you guys.
Okay.
guys, we can't do that.
Jesus Christ.
We can't do that, guys. We need to. Okay. I think that right now, this is when you're talking about the flags on the poles, and I really need to, like, I can't do the back and forth too much. That's not how these meetings run. I'm
Poles are
sorry.
owned by the.
I'm sorry, that's not how the meetings run. The polls, yeah, the polls are owned by the city, and so right now, that's
They're
or
owned by the electric company.
yeah, but the
Or the telephone company.
City.
guys.
They maintain them.
Okay, so we're gonna have to, there's some clarification I need to figure out about the polls. My understanding is that right now, nobody is extremely upset about the situation about polls and flags right now.
Yeah.
Right, so I think the idea is that what we eventually come up with will pertain to flags on the polls, flags on the city poles, flags on any sort of public property. And
Can I say something?
go ahead.
So I have a picture of this pond and this flag hanging in my home. I have a flag hanging on the outside of my home. I am gay, if that matters to anyone. I don't have a problem, I know, news. I don't have a problem with the flag. I just don't. I don't. So I'm putting that out there. What we are tasked with as elected officials for this city on a legislative body is to make sure that whatever happens on city property is fair, aligns with constitutional free speech. And so my thought, and I've spoken to Mike and, what's your name, Pat, about this, is that it has less to do with the flag for me than about what if I decide to float a pride flag out there? You guys have a problem with that? And what if the next person, because we have no policy now, and we're saying that you can float a flag, or you can put a flag on the pond, what if we have somebody who comes along and puts a Nazi flag? Absent a policy, we would be unable to tell them not to do that, because we have said flag up is free speech. Or actually, we haven't even said that. We're allowing it. So if we're allowing it, then we're allowing anyone to put a flag up, because Mike and Pat don't work for the city. They used to, for one did. Pat doesn't work. So so what we're trying to do is to make sure that if anything is flying on the pond, that it follows a policy. Otherwise, we're going to start to have people who go, hey, there's no rule about the American flag, so I'm going to go put a Nazi flag, because you've never said I couldn't, so you must be saying I can. So that's, I think, what we're trying to get to is, let's make sure that when we put a flag on a public piece of land in a municipality is what they call government speak. It is sanctified, if you will, by the government of that city, that that's okay. And so if we turn it into something that anybody can do, because right now, Pat and Mike are not affiliated with the city. What happens if that wire comes down and hits your kid in the head while they're kayaking? Who is liable? The city? We didn't put it up. So what, so these are theoreticals, everybody. I don't really expect an answer. I'm throwing out to you where my head is at, which is, should be terrifying for all of you. If there's nothing out there, if somebody gets hurt, if the flag falls, if the tree falls, if the pole falls,
if the city has not given authority via an ordinance or a policy, then that worries me a little bit. Like, I would like to, if we're gonna do this, then I would like to see it be A, official, B, probably put up by city employees, so that if there's liability, but that can be debated. My point being that this is more than the flag. The flag is almost immaterial. It's that we are putting something on a public piece of property that we should just have a policy for. Otherwise, we're going to start to have other things crop up that we don't want. So.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this one time. Here's my idea. It seems that there's some folks who have some thoughts that they didn't express the first time around. So in the interest of being accommodating, here's what I'd like to do. I will open public speak once more. If you have an additional thing to say, come up and say it. After that, we cannot have people yelling things from the audience. If you say anything after that point, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And I'm sorry about that, but that's just how it is. We can't possibly have a deliberation where there's just a lot of stuff coming from the audience while we're trying to talk to each other. So is there anyone who has anything that they would?
Before we do that, could I have a comment?
Yeah, so before we do that, JP is going to make a comment. And then after that, anyone who wants to say anything, I'll give you one last chance. After that, if you yell anything, if you speak at us during this time, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the room, because that's just how these process. Once we enter deliberation in a city meeting, the audience is not supposed to speak. That's not me coming up with the rule. That's the way it's been the entire time we've been the city. Is the way it is in every other city. So is there anyone who wants to say anything? Actually, JP, you first.
Thank you. I'm an American. I'm very proud of the Constitution. I'm proud of what we put together. Heck, I'm proud of the 250-year celebration that was just held in Concord and Lexington. I'm pleased that many Americans, most Americans, nearly all Americans feel there's a unifying force for the flag, heck, for the Constitution. Not everybody who I think respects the Constitution, but that's another matter. We're here to discuss the flag over the pond. So I have concerns that for 23 years, we have a history of flying the flag every year, including one year after an ordinance, executive orders, did you call it?
Mm-hmm.
Which I've never seen. And I've never spoken with the mayor about this. Has anyone here heard from the mayor to the reasons? I would love to know the reasons why the flag isn't allowed at this time. I've received no reasons. When I talked to the group that put up and tells us that they did a memorial, and it was started as a memorial, and the cemetery commission was involved, a letter was written from Mike Tosnick to the cemetery commission, I'm told, and that the commission granted permission for the American flag to be flown over the pond, connecting between the Brookside Cemetery on something which I haven't actually seen.
Barbara and I looked for those documents and they don't exist.
Well, this is
I'm just saying.
over to a tree. I take it on the other side, and then there's a winch, and it gets lowered, and the flag gets put up and taken down on an annual basis. It's respectfully done, and no one has ever asked for it to be illuminated, but I'm sure the group would illuminate the flag if they were asked. But they don't know what the reason, I don't know what the reasoning is behind stopping this.
It's embarrassing that she's not here to address it with us.
Sir, I just said, please don't yell things from the audience.
You don't have to go away.
It's embarrassing that our mayor can't be here to address it. She's never been here.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I didn't mean
All right, you're good. If you speak up again, you're gonna have
I'm
to.
getting out now.
Okay.
I'm American. I served my country. I served Korea. I've been here for 82 years in this goddamn town. And you say we can't fly a flag? I fly it here every day. When I went to school,
All right,
Pledge
thank you.
allegiance every day.
Thank you.
I'm
Okay.
leaving. You guys are nothing.
I'm not saying we can't fly a flag. I'm saying I want to know why we are not allowed to fly the American flag over the pond. And that those who have been granted permission in the past have never been notified as to the reasoning and that they needed to stop for some reason. So why are we here? There was permission granted.
Name's Kevin Miller, 25.
Sorry, he's speaking.
Would be my questions. I have other questions, which I'll reserve. But I would have no problems with a proclamation, with a declaration, with an endorsement. If we felt as a group that that endorsement should be done with some sort of liability issue, because there's a liability issue, we could address that. I'd be happy to, because this liability always is an important thing with a municipality. But aside from that, I can see no reason why it should be stopped. Do we need to, could we do a proclamation without an ordinance at this time? I don't see why not. I don't see why the issue at hand is the American flag over the pond. And flags over the rest of the city and elsewhere could be handled separately under discussions for an ordinance. But this is a conjunction with a memorial that was established by a private group with city permission at one time.
Okay, thank you.
Just to give it some history.
All right. So like I said, if anyone wants to speak, to do any more public speak, yes, go for
My
it.
hands up.
Yep, go for it.
Okay. So you all figure it out. I mean, this is passed around to 4 committees since it's got here today. Mayor has not shown up for one that I know of. All right, and I understood it was in the Gazette that there was a letter that was sent to the mayor complaining about the flag being flown over the pond. And this is what started everything happening. Until you all figure out what you're going to do, there will be no flags flown on the streets of Easthampton until that happens.
This thought just occurred to me as I was sitting there listening to you folks. Sometimes you can just dig and dig and dig and turn and try to figure things out from all kinds of different angles. And sometimes in that process, it could also be jeopardizing other things in the town or in the city. I just want to know, and maybe, does our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. have an ordinance to say that they are only going to fly the American flag at their building and not a Nazi flag or any other kind of flag? I'm just curious, because if there are no ordinances in other municipalities or in our nation's capital, why do we have to have an ordinance? Why can't we just let this thing be? You're in a tough position. I get that listening to this. I mean, and I'm thankful for the fact that you're wrestling with this also. I mean, I just, it's not an easy job, and you've got people that you can't keep happy all the time. But we as a city have done things here. I mean, careful. I just hate to see other things that we're doing fall into jeopardy because of this flag situation.
Thank you.
I think you know what I'm talking about. You know what I do, and you know what he does. And I want to say thanks to Michael. Mike, thanks for what you did with that flag in the first place. Thanks for the commemoration. I mean, deserve the real answer now. You're the one that got me onto the National Honor Fund Steering Committee. I may have taken a couple of beers, but you got me on the committee. And I grabbed the bull by the horns, and we've got a lot of good people come on board. So if everybody here is in favor of this, we didn't have anybody show up objecting to it.
The mayor's not here, that's why.
But I guess you have the power to set an ordinance. Why can't we just say that the American flag is allowed to fly on the pond, and that's the only flag that's allowed to fly on the pond, and get on with other things, perhaps? Just my thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to let you know, I think I have copies of documents that you don't have. And I'd be happy to wait. Maybe we can make photocopies of them.
Right.
Sure. Appreciate it.
But I did want to mention that nowhere has the Park and Rec Department asked for an ordinance that I can find. Their letter doesn't ask that, but I'll give you a copy of that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mark Chulak here again. This is the third meeting about the flag over the pond that I have attended. Each and every time the cans got kicked down the road a little bit further and a little bit further. You people say you need to write an ordinance. I probably agree with that. But I also like what JP said about making a proclamation. And even if the proclamation only says, put the flag up for now, we will have the ordinance done by next year. You know, so we can correct these issues that you guys have questions of. But, you know, this has been since November last year. And now it's time to fly the flags again. I agree. Write a proclamation or whatever works to get the flags up this year. If you can't have the ordinance done in time, at least let us get the flags up. And then it might give you a couple more months to work on the ordinance if you think you need the time. I think putting the flag up right now is paramount. It's been kicked down the road long, you know, the can down the road plenty of times. It's time to just do what's right.
Hello, my name is Evan LeBeau. Although I am currently a resident of Holyoke, I have recently moved back to Easthampton, and I grew up here, and I've spent, you know, the majority of the photos on my phone are of the flag, which I love, and I hope it comes back. To be constructive right now, I would like to suggest referring to Mass General Law. I've got it actually pulled up. MGL Part 1, Title 1, Chapter 2, Section 6, which is.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Yeah, of course. MGL Part 1, Title 1, Chapter 2, Section 6. And it's about the flag flying at the State House. I also know that South Carolina, as you were talking about, had a Confederate flag that was flying, and they had to pass in state law in order to bring it down. The importance of this ordinance is extreme because it will cement the ability for the flag to be flown, but also protect it as the American flag's rightful place as well, as you were saying, Councilor Coniff. I want to also quickly say a thank you to the three of you for being here tonight, for serving our community tirelessly, as I know you always do, for listening to all of our voices. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We have one online, and then I think we have to move to deliberation.
Two online. We have
Two online.
Jason.
Okay. Two online, and then we need to move to the Jason. Go ahead.
Hello, Jason Suwak, live on Harvey Street here in town. I was just listening, and I heard a lot of good things, but also kind of some contradictions. You know, one of the points that was made was that, you know, if we can fly the American flag, what's to stop someone from whether it be anything from a pride flag to a Nazi flag? You've already stated that the mayor has the power from some ancient executive order, so that point seems invalid to me if the mayor could just, with a yes or no, make that happen. So that concern, you know, kind of just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I've heard a lot of talk in the community about the flag code, which was brought up. And I just wanted to mention that along with it just basically being guidelines and recommendations, it says that the flag has to be properly illuminated at night. I've never not been able to see that flag at night. While it doesn't have a direct beam shining on it, there is more than enough lighting in that area that you can properly see that flag 24 hours a day. And other than that, it just, the one thing that like really kind of just bothered me at the end was when I think it was JP was saying that he himself hasn't heard the answer from the mayor as to why this was stopped in the first place. And if our committees can't get that answer and our community can't get that answer, it really just rubs me the wrong way. And it seems that we need more transparency. And the mayor can just say, yes, put this flag up while you guys make an ordinance that would be permanent. So I think we might want to, try to pursue something along those lines that was suggested earlier. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, you're last, and then we need to go and deliberate.
Okay, I'm still awake. So, oh man. Actually, Jason pretty much echoed what I was going to say. So thanks, Jason. You were put at a disadvantage because you weren't giving the root cause from the mayor. And I think you really needed that in order to kind of define how you want your ordinance to be. Mm-hmm. You can go back and hear in her quotes in the Gazette stating it was because it did not follow the flag code. So if that's all we have to work off of, then that can be rectified. And again, that's all we have to work off of. I mean, Mayor Tosick may have more. I don't know. But that was my understanding. Then that can be easily resolved, as I said earlier. Maybe you can integrate that in there. I don't know, to address it so that the mayor will be satisfied. Because again, that's what she said in the Gazette. Those were her own words. And pretty much you would be okay. As far as the other flags, I have to tell you, I love seeing all of the photo ops that are done with the pride flag putting up in front of our building, with the American flag. I like seeing that, and I don't think that should be taken away. I just love seeing it. I love seeing the flags together, kind of one speaks to all. But, there were some trials and tribulations that people have gone through that earned that right to be on that pole, So I just wanted to say that. It has nothing to do with the pond. The pond is, that's specifically, a great place for the U.S. flag. And I think that we should define it to that. But somebody had mentioned that they didn't want to see the other flags on the pole in front of City Hall. And I just think that they have a rightful place there.
Thanks,
So
Julie.
that's all. All right. Thank you.
Can I say one thing? Real fast. It's gonna help you. Okay, you're looking for an ordinance. It's plain and simple. No one person should be able to say if a flag flies or not. The mayor should not have that title. It should go to the people who live here. Right. If you're gonna put a new flag up or a different flag up, then put it on Facebook, have a vote on it. Why does one person have the decision of what flies out there? It should not be that way.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
All right. So at this point, we got to close public speak. I would once again just really, really ask that everybody please try and just listen at this point, and then after that, if you want to speak with us or email us or call us with any feedback you have. I don't think we're taking a vote tonight, so you'll have an opportunity to weigh in, but just my ADD, I'm not going to be able to handle it with all of the crosstalk, and it's against our rules anyway. So, okay. Counselors, what are your thoughts?
One, I think we should have a proclamation immediately drafted for as soon as possible. endorsing the plan as it's been in the past, to acknowledge that this year, we have the American flag fly on the existing cable under the way it's been for the last 23 years, to honor the folks who served and suffered during 9/11. And that runs through from Memorial Day through, well, just before Memorial Day until just after Veterans Day. Give it a day or two to remove the flag and to install it.
Can I weigh in on that?
That's what I would do. Meanwhile, we could discuss, as I had suggested earlier, an ordinance as a separate topic.
Yeah, so my one thought on that,
Unless you
I didn't encourage you to go forward with that, but when you say a proclamation, do you mean like a resolution?
A resolution,
Okay, so like we could,
be it resolved.
would you, yeah, but that's not what's on our agenda, but if you,
And also a resolution is non-binding, so the mayor could, I mean, it's not, it's just our opinion.
It would express the council's position.
Right.
so I would encourage you, if you think that's a good idea, I'd encourage you to,
I'm asking for your feedback on the subject.
Oh,
For us
sure.
to discuss that.
yeah,
Since it all is a part and parcel with keeping the flag over the pond in the way it's flown. So I think it is on our agenda to discuss.
So I agree that given that the delays on this have been self-inflicted by the council, that I don't think we necessarily need to make an immediate judgment right now on something that is what are we talking, 3 weeks away or a month away? So I would agree that maybe we have whatever we want to call it, a proclamation, a request, of whatever, that says for the 25 year right now, we'll kind of cease and desist on whatever, has been in place until we can get a proper ordinance done, which I don't think we can get done in a month.
I don't think we can.
And so I don't feel strongly either way, but I think that is a way to get it done without everybody waiting. You know what I mean, Tom?
yeah, so maybe really persnickety for a second.
I would have it done another way.
Hold it for a second.
For the rest of my entire life, to the horror of everyone around me. So yeah, what I understand is that we received this business on December 8th from then President Gomez, and the letter that he sent said, he had included some correspondence from Director Mason, where he said, I'm requesting the city council consider the mayor's recommendation and move this item to a future city council agenda for their interpretation. And then what Omar had said was that he added it to the agenda of refer to the property committee as a request to create an ordinance about flags in Easthampton. So that is the item that we are discussing right now as an ordinance. Now, I think that your idea makes a lot of sense, and I would encourage you to add that to our packet for a resolution for immediate consideration. In fact, I'd be happy to co-sponsor that with you, but I do think that's a separate item than what we're doing right here, because what we were asked to do, what the public has been informed that we're going to do tonight, is work on an ordinance, not a resolution. Does that make sense? Do you agree with me on that?
We've been asked to, I agree that we have an ordinance before us and an issue before us. That I think both are before us for the same reason. The mayor hasn't told us why the flag isn't over the pond and why she's been pushing to have it not be over the pond.
So I guess,
So, sure, I'm happy to have us take that as a separate aside and not write a proclamation tonight unless you thought that that is,
I'm also just not a fan of writing resolutions in real time.
Yeah.
So I think that if we're gonna do that, again, happy to co-sponsor it with you, but I do think, and I think that it makes sense given the timeline. I don't think we are going to be able to actually do this in a thoughtful way. And I don't like rushing things. So I think that requesting that the mayor let this stand for at least this season while we figure this matter out makes a lot of sense. But I just think that that's something we should do, not here tonight. I think we should do it, maybe talk about, we can send some drafts out tonight, tomorrow, get it in for the Thursday deadline and then do that. I just would, I'm just always nervous about writing things, and with a live TV audience,
sure.
But yeah,
I wasn't suggesting we.
Get something in the packet, I think would be the best course of action at this point for them first.
Right.
So I
I
think
mean,
Mary Ann
as long as this
will
group
see-
is in agreement with the concept and with the support of the idea, that was mainly.
Well, whoever puts the proclamation forward, you guys. That would, I think then there's 9 people that vote on it.
Right.
And I find it hard to believe anyone would have a major problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And as far as, it's so weird having a large audience critiquing every word we're saying. But I'm gonna say it anyway. So one of the precedents for flags and the whole, whatever you want to call it, conundrum or problem, is a result of a Supreme Court ruling against Boston.
Yes.
Which I think Nathan,
I
or not
had
Nathan.
referenced it earlier.
Did you?
Yeah.
The Supreme Court?
The Boston thing, the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what they said was that if you do that, if you have a flag somewhere and you don't have a policy or you don't have a process, then anything can go there and you can't say no. Right? So I think that is the impetus for why we have to do this, because otherwise we run the potential of other things happening. And I think it's just the more you know kind of thing.
Right.
That, this only came down, I think, within a year ago.
It was a couple, yeah, but yeah, I think that, and just to add to that,
The executive order.
You guys can't talk. Can we, this is very.
That's very.
Look at us.
Okay, so.
I agree that on public property,
Yeah.
that this would be an issue. The question in my mind is, I mean, I can see it on the flagpole in front of City Hall, the flagpoles at Town Hall, and any other, at the schools. That all makes sense for a policy for those flags. Here, because it's really had been a request from a private organization with a private tree and a private wire, with the only city connection being over on the Brookside Cemetery side, that this really wasn't something that we were writing an ordinance for. This is, the only reason the flag is there is because it's connected to private property.
And the
Flying
pond
over
is
the,
public.
flying over the pond. Yes, it is over the pond. So there was a request, and that's why I said, with the request to the Brookside Cemetery, the permission was to have that connection and have a flag, the American flag be strewn over, flying over it. But it isn't an official city flag. It isn't an official city location, aside from the endorsement of the cemetery commission. This was privately risen or,
Can I just jump in real quick for a second? There's
so
just,
I'm not sure that the ordinance would, that anybody could put any flag there.
well, so this is, I mean, okay, yeah, there's some technicalities there. I think that the one point I wanted to make, just in a response to what Peg, you were saying a second ago, is that, like, I agree we need a policy, but what I just want to come back to is that right now the policy is that the mayor decides what gets floated and what doesn't. So that is the current policy. There is a policy right now. We are not at any risk of, you know, some crazy hate flag getting flown in Easthampton. We just also are in a situation where right now, as it currently stands, it is completely up to the mayor, and the mayor has made a decision that a lot of people here do not agree with, but I think that it sparks a broader conversation about what should the process be, because right now that's the process, is my understanding. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I also agree that next year, when we have a new mayor, this goes away and we're back in the same place.
Yeah, it could just, we have no, the next mayor could just come up with a completely different thing. And so there is a thought about.
Which is why we need an ordinance.
Yes. And so, okay, I think that what I'm hearing so far, I think that there's some things that are productive here. I think
some.
Yeah, no, and these conversations are always like a little bit messy, but that's fine. So what I'm hearing from the group is that we're kind of the opinion that at least a couple of us are talking about putting forward a resolution to sort of say that in the meantime, we don't have the authority to usurp what the mayor wants, but we would ask that the mayor consider the fact that there's not there's not time for us to do the updated ordinance, so that we can request that things happen, that the flag be allowed for this season. I think we can request that, and we'll see where it goes. So that's step number one. Step number two, I think we all agree we do need to write an ordinance. Number three, I think we all agree that set an ordinance, we probably don't have time to write a thoughtful and we probably don't have time to write a thoughtful and comprehensive ordinance in time, like before this comes up. You know, I mean, like, unless we could, but we'd be moving deliberately on it. It would be, and there's a lot of things we could consider. So I think that makes the most sense, that we move forward on this and see if we can reach some sort of short-term resolution.
May I?
No. I mean, I'm not the chair, sorry.
Do both of you want to speak? Is that?
No, I thought he was
yes.
gonna ask the audience.
I know, I was gonna ask.
Oh.
Question, if I may.
Then have at it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You were looking that way and I'm like,
Got it, chair, whatever, no. Thank you, Tom. If we wanted to craft an ordinance directly with regard to the flag over the pond, and just we could make as many ordinances like that, we could do that. That is another option of this, and not to have to deal with flag policy everywhere, but an endorsement of the 9/11 permissions that we had believed had been granted. We were told they were granted, that you said we couldn't be found by Barbara.
we just couldn't find the minutes of a meeting.
Minutes of a meeting,
From the
but
Center
there may very well, I understand, be a letter of a request from the mayor at the time to the organization, and that.
Can I just jump in for a second to be like, regardless of whether or not the permission was ever granted or whatever, like the current guidance, the current policy is the mayor gets to decide whether or not it is, like, we can
So I'm saying,
agree with that or
my
disagree
point
with
was to
that.
craft an ordinance.
Yeah.
And this particular.
I think that
table.
that's I think that that's a thing that we can discuss, that we could discuss potentially doing something that's very limited to this and its scope, with the understanding that we're going to come back and do a more comprehensive thing later. I think that that's a possibility, and I think that it's something that we should really consider. In fact, we have some we have some precedent for that, right? Because when we did in ordinance committee, when we did the illuminated, the electronic signs. Do you remember that thing?
Oh, yeah.
Right, so we found that like already the city was not in compliance with its own ordinance. So we basically said, we wrote one ordinance saying, okay, the city's allowed to do so for these purposes. But then we came back a few months later with a second, and then so that is something that we could consider doing, is saying, we could put a very narrow ordinance together saying specifically when it comes to the pond, here's what's allowed in terms of flags, and specifically the only thing that we're going to fly is the American flag. And I mean, I think I think there are some questions about like right now it is a group of private citizens putting it up. And I think that there's some questions that we'd want to discuss about, should the city be the ones putting it up for liability reasons? I think that especially because like, what if Pat and Mike decide that they're sick of doing it at some point? Like, does that mean it just stops? Like, I think that there are important policy questions to discuss even at that point. But I do think that that's a way that we could potentially go about this, is talking about doing something very, very narrow and pond related, with the understanding that it's then going to become a subsection of a broader thing once we have time to really think all that
We
through.
read it as a sunset that it ends this year, you know, that. If writing it, if having a sunset would be necessary, or the intent would be it'll become part of a larger policy. Maybe we wouldn't even need a sunset.
Yeah, I mean, you could have
Maybe you just leave
one
it.
A and one B, A being the pond and B being
Yeah,
holes
different.
around the city.
That's correct.
You know what I mean?
Yep. That would be one way to get there. So
I'm willing to, if you are both open to that, I'm willing to pursue that course of action. But I think I also would be in favor of doing a resolution, because
I think
we can do that
parallel.
next week. Like, we can do that in parallel. There's no reason not to do both. But I do think that I would be uncomfortable with the idea of doing that sort of narrow resolution if there wasn't an understanding from the membership that once that was passed, we were going to come back to this issue when it comes to
Every place
the
else.
rest of
Yeah.
city-owned property.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I think that that's a path forward. I really don't. I heard tonight a lot of frustration about the fact that this has been kicked around a lot. I think it is really important to me that we come to some conclusion to this. I don't want, I understand how frustrating that is, and I really don't want that to be people's experience with municipal government any more than it has to be. So I'm very, I'm okay with that.
You know, in looking at other policies or ordinances in other communities in Massachusetts. Yes, I have them.
Mhm.
They're very simple.
Yeah.
They're really simple, and their parameters are basically what flag, what hours, where. You know what I mean? And as long as you say you can, this flag, these hours, these dates, you're kind of covered in terms of, you know, any.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be.
Influence
Right.
of anything else. Once you say only the American flag, it rules everything else out.
Yep.
And once you say that it should be potentially installed by the city versus you guys, you're welcome. Then you just put that in there, and then, you know, we'll subcontract.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we don't have to over-engineer it. I think it's just a matter of what does it look like? What are the dates? And I further am going to advocate, and I'm looking at you guys right now, but you can't talk to me. that, isn't next year the 25th anniversary? And why don't we start, I say we, God, please don't ask me to do this. Why don't we, as a city, begin the process of getting an official 9/11 memorial on the boardwalk or there, so that people, when they look at said flag, will understand why it's there and why we want to keep it. So given that it's the 25th anniversary next year, you have a 1.5 year lead time. Get on it.
I do like that idea because if I'm being honest, like I started hanging out in Easthampton when my friend moved here in 2003, when I was 14 years old,
Exactly.
15 years old. So the flag's just always been there. Right? It wasn't until I got elected that I was aware of the significance of it. I just thought it was a thing that's always been there because it went up a year or two before I ever started hanging out in this community. So I think that that's smart and could be a fun, I don't know if fun's the right word, a meaningful and worthy project. But okay. But do we agree that like certain, just in terms of, again, I hate writing ordinances in real time. So, but I think
we're not writing one today.
Yeah, but big parameters are saying it would be just the U.S. flag. It would be between
dates A and B.
Dates A and B, probably the same ones that we've been doing. And
the only thing I would want in there is a check, is a check on the how it's installed and the mechanics of it and making sure that it's safe and that the tree that it's tethered to is not being destroyed and or is going to fall into the pond at any time soon. Like we have to just really make sure that it's not, which I know it's not, it's been there for 23 years, but we should put that in something.
Right. It would be nice to say, hey, when you're putting this up.
Yeah, this is how you do it.
And you know, we could go back and forth on this, but one thing that I would suggest putting in there, seeing as it's been discussed already here that this is doable, I would say that it should be installed in accordance with the flag code to the extent that that's possible. Because, you know, like that, I just think is, like if that was the source of this issue, then let's just say, hey, if we're doing this, it has to be done right, and here's the guidelines, and then it's there, and we have everything written out and ready to go.
Yeah. All the parameters should be really clear. And most of those parameters are just nerd things that if you're a city councilor, you got to make sure are done.
Right.
Like I would imagine that really all that matters is that it flies.
Yeah, I mean,
to the vast majority.
Sorry,
of
we
folks,
can't.
You know, but I would say that.
Sorry, we can't right now.
But I would say that, you know, in terms of what we're responsible for, which is the safety and caretaking of the city, we have to make sure it's safe.
Yeah, and I am sympathetic to people in the public who are like, what is the point of all of this? Because like a lot of this is kind of.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone want to take a first stab at this? Because we shouldn't be writing.
As you both look at me.
Well, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
You will? Okay.
You know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so then do we want to set a meeting?
Next Tuesday, same time, same place?
Uh,
Or same time,
wow.
different place,
It was
whatever.
weekend.
Do you think you need more time? We could do 2 weeks.
This is probably gonna be.
Okay, so let's set a meeting.
The hard part will getting the mayor to sign off.
Well, that's the end though. So let's set a meeting. Let's try and get this room. If we can't, we'll try. I just don't know what meetings are here next week. But I'll request it. We can set a meeting.
Tuesday, 6?
Yeah, and we'll come in with a piece of an actual written, you know what, let me check the city council agenda, just to make sure that we're not doing something really dumb there.
While you're doing that, I'm just gonna make a quick announcement, I guess I'll call it. I wanted to go on record saying after all the discussion about this, all the having one meeting and another meeting and another meeting, different committees, different groups being involved. I am very disappointed that the mayor hasn't attended this meeting or reached out to any one of us, all of us individually, to cite her concerns.
Well, I will say that I
I'm sorry.
reached out to her and we had a very long conversation, so
I'm
I
glad.
would
Okay.
encourage
Good.
everyone else to do the same.
Yeah, well, I'm disappointed that because she had written an executive order that she's not here to help the public understand her reasoning and thinking.
Well,
Help us understand that. Just needed to say that, needed to get it out there. It's unfortunate.
okay, yeah, noted. I think,
You were looking up.
yeah,
the schedule.
there's nothing on that Tuesday that should use this room, so, I'll put in a request as soon as I get. 9th or the 6th? We'd be talking about the 29th.
Wait, we are?
Right, a week from now?
Let me check, sorry. I was a week ahead.
If we,
Apparently I have a conflict, but, if we can be done by 7, I can.
well, if we come in with a piece, that should be fine. So, okay, are you sure that's enough time though?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Then, yeah, let's shoot for the 29th in these chambers. 5:30 is better for you?
6, then I gotta leave after an hour and that would be awesome.
Okay, well, 5:30 work for you?
5:30 is fine.
Let's shoot for 5:30. These chambers, and, we'll have something and we can, display it to the public. We can take any feedback that people might have, and we can propose any amendments, and then we'll take a vote and send that to the full council, and
We could get it there by the 5th, or what is the next council?
the
meeting?
next council meeting is the
7th.
the 7th.
So we could
Yeah.
conceivably have it packaged for the 7th.
Yeah, it's an ordinance, so it would need a public hearing.
Right, so
But we could have that public
7th.
hearing then on the 21st, which is,
the 7th, no, on the 7th. City council.
yes, but we need to
Oh, right, schedule
schedule
it.
a public
And
hearing.
then that would be, what did you say? 2014 plus, okay, 21st.
How many days for the public hearing to be?
2 weeks is fine. But we need to vote to schedule. These are all just city council rule stuff. I know this all must be really annoying to people who are not deep in this stuff, but for us to take it, to vote on an ordinance, we need to advertise it in the press that there's going to be a public hearing. But we could,
So
yeah,
the 21st would be
21st.
the public hearing.
Yep.
And we could vote that night, in theory.
yes. Okay. I'm okay with that. Anything else? Any other things we want to discuss before we adjourn?
We have all the parameters. Are you comfortable?
Completely.
Look at the parameters. So if I understand it correctly, we're isolating an ordinance to the pond, to the specific site where.
I'm not gonna designate that in the ordinance, like what specific, latitude and longitude
Right.
we have to put the pole that it's gonna be on.
Right, because a tree goes
It's just
down.
going
so-
to be, it's just going to be tethered on either side of the pond.
Okay. good.
And we can, for now, we'll define that it's the cemetery
Brookside Cemetery.
and a pole that is not owned by the city. Correct. And, maybe I'll, that
Okay,
would be it
yeah.
for now.
great.
We can change that too at some point if we needed to, like which tree if that one falls over.
I mean, I think we could just say, just give them the latitude as long as there's the parties on both sides are comfortable with that.
I just,
you know.
my only point being that we need to be specific if one side is gonna be sitting in public land versus one side is, it's as annoying as all get out, but we
Yeah.
have to be specific.
Yeah, I agree.
And then
Okay.
we'll change it if that changes.
Yes.
Right.
And we can take another, pass at it also if when we do the whole thing.
And 6 other people may have a good idea for that. Yeah,
Yep.
so.
Okay,
Okay.
anything? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.